Hey guys, how are ya? I don't do a lot of these solo. Nikki's traveling. She's on her way to the CrossFit Games to do the sideline reporting, and I'm on my way to spectate and spend time at the Tito's tent. But I got blown up yesterday via DM on my drive in around the coverage for the age group and adaptive athlete part of the competition. And so I thought I'd jump on and chat about it. I'm clearly not prepared. I'm in some hotel in BFE, Indiana. It's like 6 in the morning. I don't have any gear. This is on my iPhone, so forgive the quality, but shout out to Apple for the nice job with the camera. Regardless, you guys were sending me tons of DMs about it yesterday, and so I thought I would give you guys kind of my view from 10,000 feet, which isn't really a figure of speech. It sounds like the view's actually from 10,000 feet. There's a single static camera on the competition that looks like it's out in a football field, and so you can see the field of play, look out 1,000 yards in front of you, and tiny little people running around, and that's the complaint. You got people spending thousands of dollars training year round, and not to mention countless hours beating themselves senseless to make it to our elite Super Bowl competition, and they get no coverage, and so that's a shame. And so I wanted to put some context to it and give you a sense of why I think that is and what I think CrossFit should be thinking about. So on my drive in, funny enough, I was listening to the Jocko podcast that Don Fall was on recently. Don, for those of you who don't know, you should. Don Fall's the CEO of CrossFit. And I've met him a few times, and the times I've met him, he's been great. Had, the pleasure to chat with him on the podcast once, and listening to him on the Jocko podcast, they told his complete story from end to end. And you really should go listen to it because it's a brilliant profile on his entire life from growing up in New Jersey to leading CrossFit to where he is today. And this is a guy, if I could summarize it, that kind of every step along the way has always chosen the harder path that requires more preparation and more self-sacrifice than the normal person would want. He went to the Naval Academy instead of, kind of a quote unquote normal university, into the Marines, served in wartime in active combat in Afghanistan. When he came out of there, he worked at Google and Facebook and Pinterest and Athos and, kind of companies at the time that were not completely on solid footing and were taking jobs that were, according to him, above his pay grade, meaning he wasn't fully prepared, but he was going to outwork the guy next to him. And all along the way has built teams through self-sacrifice. So it's kind of the ideal person to lead an organization like this. And it's really interesting to listen. So go listen to it. So keeping that in mind, over the course of this conversation with Jocko, he was talking about the biggest obstacles facing CrossFit currently. And one of those was storytelling, meaning CrossFit has historically not done a great job in controlling their own narrative and telling the story of CrossFit, why you should go do CrossFit. Everyone else has. You guys have heard it for years. CrossFit is dangerous. CrossFit is this. CrossFit is that. But CrossFit has not done a great job of telling our own story. We've really grown through word of mouth. We grab a friend and say, hey, you have to come try this. This is great. You'll love it. And we bring them in, and we've seen, massive growth over the years. But CrossFit themselves has not done a great job in doing that. And so he views that as one of the great challenges of the organization is how do we tell the story of CrossFit and get people into the affiliates, which is ultimately our mission. How do you get more people into the affiliates so we can help change their lives through health and fitness? And then the second piece of that is really understanding the storytelling, figuring out what works and replicating it, meaning you can tell a beautifully crafted story and it reaches no one. Or you can do a crappy YouTube video like this and it reaches thousands, millions, it goes viral. So it isn't always about investing the most money as much as it is making sure you're getting good ROI or return on investment and investing those resources in those things over and over and over to reach the most people. So that's important to note. So I suspect CrossFit views this adaptive and age group part of the competition and the live stream that accompanies it as low return on investment. And to be fair to CrossFit, live streaming is very expensive. I'm not in media by any stretch of the imagination, but I have several friends that work, obviously, Nikki and some of the others that work on the media side. And I know enough about it to know that it's a very costly proposition, particularly once you start factoring in multiple cameras and camera angles and positioning and everything that goes into it. Just the manpower alone that you have to do, it's difficult to say the least. And so I'm sure they view it as very expensive, low return on investment. And part of that's their own fault. CrossFit does not do a good job of understanding how people are getting into the affiliates today. Like, they know when people are going to the website and they can see that, but they don't really have any way of knowing how they go from the website into a gym and if it actually sticks. I've learned that directly from Austin Malialo, who's the head of affiliates, and Keith Knapp, who's the head of marketing. They've both been on the show and both told us that this is a gap and something they're addressing and working actively on, but currently they don't know. So it would be fair to say CrossFit's looking at the P&L or the income statement and saying, man, this is an expensive competition to put on. It costs a lot of money to stream. Where do we want to invest our resources? Let's invest our resources in the areas that we know people are going to be watching, which are the elite athletes. I would tell you it's very short-sighted to not stream the adaptive and the age groups. And here's why it's short-sighted. So in order to be a CrossFitter, there has to be something different about you. And what I mean by that is, you hear often that CrossFit's for everyone, but it isn't for everyone. Anyone can do it. Like, anyone can physically do CrossFit, but it is not for everyone. If you look around your gym, you will see this. CrossFitters all share similar traits. We're stubborn. We're typically A-type personalities. We're problem solvers. You may not have all of these, by the way, but you're going to have some of these traits to you. You're a problem solver. You're motivated. You're a goal setter. You have to be made to suffer. You probably either have a love for athletics, or you used to be a former athlete. And if you were a former athlete, you were probably an athlete in a sport that suffered hard, like swimming, running, football, anything that requires great physical exertion. You probably fell into one of those buckets, right? All common traits that we share. Where the adaptive and age groups comes in is they're no different. Like, simply because you have an impairment or you happen to be old like me, you still have all those traits. But what they have in common that younger people don't is they often have the stigma of, well, I can no longer do that because of blank, because of age, or in this case, impairment. And so what you need in order to cross that hurdle is the visual. You need the representation that someone else like you need to be able to see yourself in someone else. Someone like you is doing it, and now you're like, I can do that. I'll give you an example. My dad's 77 years old. At 75, he started CrossFit. Now, he didn't just walk into an affiliate one day and go, hey, I'd like to do rope climbs. He saw me doing it for a decade. And he goes, well, my old ass son can do that. I can do it too. And it was a decade of me telling him, Dad, there's guys down there just like you, your age, that can do this. Now imagine if you have an impairment. Imagine you're missing your leg below the knee. You think, well, my running days are over. I'm certainly not going to lift weights. Certainly not going to do box jumps, until you see it happen. The first time you see someone running and doing box jumps and rope climbs, missing a leg, you're like, all right, where's my excuse? I can do that. And I can give you hundreds and countless stories of people I've talked to over the years that have had loved ones that are vision impaired, or they have mental challenges, or whatever the impairment may be, that have gone to those loved ones and said, I want you to see this. Look at this. You can do this. Let's take you to an affiliate. And so I think it's incredibly short-sighted to think, the cost of streaming the age group and adaptives is prohibited to what the return of this is going to be, simply because you're not exactly sure what the return is going to be. There has to be some level of faith that those of us running the affiliates, that my affiliate, Chagrin Falls CrossFit, when you put out that stream, I'm going to use that as my affiliate as a proof point to people coming in the door that you can do this. I'm going to use it as a proof point in the community, and we're going to hand it off to others so they'll know. If you're not convinced, then the other challenge I would give CrossFit then is don't do the live stream. Don't advertise it. Don't send out your press release saying you're doing the single static camera. What you need to do then is go all in on still capturing that information and using it at a later date to make sure these athletes that have worked so hard all year to get their coverage that they've earned, in my opinion. But number two, that you can drive people into the affiliates through representation. And so I think CrossFit really needs to take a hard look at what this looks like. If you're not going to stream the entire event, pick one event and give it full coverage just like you would the elites. Could certainly be an option for them. Or at a minimum, spend more time communicating to the community exactly what your plan for these divisions are, so everyone understands we're all on the same page, and you can prohibit this or eliminate this entire day's worth of negative feeling from the community. And bluntly, you eliminate about half a dozen memes for me, because it was meme gold yesterday. But and while I appreciate that, it's probably not good for your brand. So big challenge out to CrossFit to fix this. I think this is a big gap in what they're looking for. But I will say this before I sign off. If you haven't had a chance to watch the age group or adaptives, which clearly you haven't online, go to the Instagram page and look at some of the video that's coming out, because I will say the video they're capturing and sharing on the Instagram page is really pretty spectacular, and some great examples of representation. And those of you in affiliates, I would encourage you to like and share that so it continues to get out in the algorithm so others will see it, because it's important to help these groups get into our gyms. Thanks a lot.